Welcome to Calculator Active. My name is Yemiya Pearson, and today we're going to look at how to construct box and whisker plots using the TI-73 Explorer. Okay, so I'm cutting my calculator on. I see I have some information on this home screen, so I need to reset it. Second 0712. Great. So in order to create box and whisker plots, we're going to have to begin by entering data into list. And if you're unclear on how to actually do that, I'm going to step through it really quickly, but there is another video that is just dedicated to entering data into the list. So I'm pushing list, and I see I have list 1, list 2, list 3. So for this particular video, I'm going to enter data into 2 lists. I'm going to make list 1 my math test scores. I'm going to make list 2 my science test scores. So first I enter 80, enter 75, enter 95, enter 90, enter 80, enter 65, enter 100, enter. So those are my 7 math test scores. So now I want to go to list 2. I'm going to scroll over to the right, and now I see that the column is highlighted beside the first entry in list 2. So I start typing my science scores. 85, enter. 75, enter. 60, enter. 80, enter. 65, enter. 70, enter, and 75. Great. So now, before I begin any operations with these list of data, I need to make sure I return to my home screen. So I'm going to click second mode. All right, so when you create a box and whisker plot, this is the information that you're able to derive from that box and whisker plot. You can get the minimum value, the maximum value. The first quartile, or called the lower quartile, the upper quartile, which is the third quartile, and the median, which is the second quartile. And we're going to use a trace feature as well, and you're able to actually see what those values are. And then you can determine your interquartile range and your range for the whole data set. Okay, so we've gone back to our home screen. We have our data in the list. So we want to plot this. And if you look above the Y equals key, which is the first red key to the left, directly up under the screen, right above the Y equals, you see plot. So this is where we will create our box and whisker plot. So I'm going to push second, Y equals. And right now it gives me options for plot 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to look at plot 1 that is highlighted right now by pressing enter. Right now plot 1 is off, so I need to turn it on. The cursor is blinking on, so I need to highlight it by pressing enter. Now I'm going to arrow down to the type of graph. So let me briefly tell you what these are. The first one is a scatter plot. Second one is a line graph. Next we have a pictograph. We have a bar graph, pie graph, histogram, and then the box and whisker plot. And then the last one is some extended form of box and whisker plot. We normally don't use that one. Just use the first one that you see. Okay, so my cursor is blinking on box and whisker plot. I want to highlight it and select it by pressing enter. So now it's asking, where is your data going to come from? It says X list. We know that if we're doing a box and whisker plot, we just have that one list of data. So my data is in list 1. And then I want the frequency of my graph and number line to be 1. So I'm going to leave that like it is. Okay, so now I want a graph. And a lot of times when people are ready to graph, they just push the graph key. So let me show you what happens when you graph. Right now, it gives you the standard coordinate plane, and the minimum and maximum values may not fit the data set that we have. So whenever you're graphing and constructing a box and whisker plot, you're going to need to zoom your coordinate plane for your statistical data. So we're going to push the zoom key here. And again, we're zooming for the statistical data that we've already typed in. So we're going to zoom number 7, which is zoom stat. So once you do that, it creates a window that will fit the data set that you typed into that list. Okay, so right now we have a box and whisker plot for the math test scores. I can see that my minimum and max are here, my median, my first and third quartiles, but I'm not quite sure of what those values are. I can find those out by pushing the trace key. Once you push that key, the cursor is highlighted on a particular area. And then if you look at the bottom, you can see what that area is. So what it's telling me right now is that the median for this data set, and according to this box and whisker plot, is 80. If you arrow to the left, you can see that the first quartile is 75. Arrow to the left again, you can see that the minimum is 65. Let's arrow to the right. We saw the first quartile and median already. Now we see that the third quartile is 95, and you see that the maximum value is 100. Okay. So now I want to go back to my home screen. If you recall from the list, I did enter 2 sets of data. You're able to graph more than one box and whisker plot at a time if you'd like to as well. So I'm going to go back to back to the home screen first. And now I'm going to hit second y equals. And remember how we turned plot 1 on? Let's turn on plot 2. So plot 2, the number 2 is highlighted. I'm going to press enter. And remember, we have to turn it on by selecting on. Down arrow to get to the type, and you have to arrow to the right until you get to the box and whisker plot. And press enter to select it. Now, when I arrow down to X list, remember plot 1 was list 1. So let's make plot 2 list 2 by calling up that list name. And in the previous video, I showed you how to call up the list name by hitting second list. And list 2 is number 2. Okay. And again, this frequency is 1. And we're going to look at the graph of this box and whisker plot by hitting zoom and number 7. So as you can see right here, you can see both sets of data. The top is the box and whisker plot for list 1 and the bottom for list 2. If you're not sure, when you push trace, it tells you right here, this is plot 1. If I arrow down, this tells me that my cursor right now is on plot 2. And again, you can see those values by arrowing to the left and to the right. If there are any other operations that you want to do, remember that you need to go back to the home screen. If for some reason, if you want to find the mean of this data set, go back to the home screen and then use your second list options. But this is how you construct a box and whisker plot using the TI-73. I want to again highlight these rows of keys, which you will primarily use when you are inputting data and trying to create this box and whisker plot. Thank you so much. Hope this is helpful for you.